across the spiral arms of the galaxy. Her name was spoken like a warning, a being so dangerous that entire fleets kept their distance, not because she wanted to hurt anyone, but because her touch alone could unravel the strongest metals in seconds. Worlds feared her. Commanders rerouted ships. Some even called her a walking supernova. But then a single human engineer stepped forward, one quiet, stubborn mind who refused to believe she was a threat. And in doing so, he built something no one expected, armor that'll hold her, protect her, and save entire civilizations. If stories like this make your curiosity spark a little, do me a favor. Hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who loves good sci-fi. It helps more than you'd think, and it keeps these wild, human-centered galactic tales coming your way. Thanks for being here. Now let's dive even deeper. N01 remembered the first ship she ever touched. Some historians argued it was a scout vessel drifting near the Aura Belt. Others claimed it was a cargo hauler that never made it to the docking ring. But every version of the story agreed on one thing. The moment her bare hand brushed the hull, the metal didn't melt unraveled, thread by thread, like someone had tugged loose a cosmic seam. One touch, one impossible reaction, and a starship that simply came apart. Her name was Astrolaio, though across the galaxy, people whisper a different title, the Unraveler, a name she never asked for, never wanted, and never grew comfortable hearing echo through docking bays. She wasn't born dangerous, at least not in the mythical way rumor suggested. She wasn't a weapon built by rogue civilizations. She wasn't the result of some black site experiment, though governments quietly looked into that rumor more than once. Astra was, as strange as it sounded, just a person. She laughed. She cried. She got nervous around crowds. And she spent most of her life wearing gloves thicker than starship plating, because every material scientist agreed on one thing. Nothing known to physics could survive direct skin contact with her for more than a few seconds. People didn't fear her face. They feared her hands. Imagine living with that knowledge, that one accidental brush could collapse a pressure door or shred the chassis of shuttle. It wasn't that she wanted to harm anything. Her ability was involuntary, some strange quantum resonance woven into her biology. One researcher described it as a localized reality shear, which sounded impressive until the next sentence. We don't know how she's alive. The truth was simpler. She avoided everything. Touch, closeness, connection, all the things that made people feel human. Even a handshake was unthinkable. Astra lived inside a careful bubble of distance. Gloves, sleeves, reinforced suits. And even then, people kept meters away because fear spreads fast, especially in space. The Galactic Council classified her ability as Level Black Unknown, a category reserved for threats with no clear containment strategy. Entire fleets adjusted travel routes if sensors detected her energy signature nearby. Trade hubs turned her away politely but firmly. Research stations cleared hallways when she approached. Those who didn't, well, they learned quickly. One accident sealed her reputation forever. A malfunctioning drone clipped her arm during a transport inspection. Bare skin. A split second of contact. The drone didn't explode. That would have been easier to explain. It simply unwove itself in a spiral of glittering fragments, as if the universe had pressed rewind and erased the moment of its creation. Everyone saw it. A hallway of engineers staring at her, like she'd just broken the rules of nature in front of them. After that, no one forgot. Astra didn't blame them. If she had seen someone do that, she would have stepped back too. But fear has a way of distorting a person's life. She wanted to help people, to join rescue teams or relief missions. But what captain would allow the Unraveler aboard a fragile starship? What command would risk a diplomatic disaster by placing her near foreign equipment? Even though she'd never harmed a living creature, the galaxy treated her like a dormant catastrophe waiting for the wrong moment. Everywhere she went, she carried a quiet loneliness, a heaviness that came not from being dangerous, but from being misunderstood. Still, she tried. She worked at a small outpost far from major lanes, assisting with sensor data and astrophysical mapping. She kept her gloves on, kept her distance, kept her eyes down when people whispered. Some days, she wondered if the universe would have been kinder if she had stayed hidden forever. Then came the day that changed everything. A research transport arrived unannounced. Not a military ship, not a council probe. A simple civilian craft with faded paint and a name scribbled in chipped letters. The Wayfarer's Promise. The crew consisted of only one person. A human. He stepped off the ramp wearing a tool belt, a jacket patched more times than replaced, and a tired smile like he hadn't slept in a week. His name was Evan Park, a systems engineer from a world the Council often underestimated. Earth, the planet known for producing individuals who refused to accept the word impossible. Aster kept her head lowered, expecting him to flinch the moment he realized who she was. Humans, after all, weren't immune to rumors. But he didn't step back. He didn't avoid her. He didn't even look nervous. Instead, he tilted his head and studied her gloves the way a mechanic studies a tricky engine part. "So that's the infamous pair, huh?" he said casually, as if commenting on a coffee mug. Aster blinked. "The gloves?" "Yeah, the ones keeping starships alive and furniture intact." He grinned. "Mind if I take a look?" She stared at him like he was the anomaly. "You want to inspect my gloves?" "Well, I'm here for a reason," he said. "And unless someone gave me the wrong coordinates, you're Astrolio, the woman with the quantum touch phenomenon." Most researchers said that phrase with caution. Evan said it with curiosity, maybe even excitement. "You're not afraid?" she asked quietly. "Should I be?" he replied. "You're not touching me, and I'm not planning on hugging you without permission. So we're already off to a good start." No one had ever spoken to her like that, lightly, comfortably, like she wasn't a hazard wrapped in fabric. Aster didn't smile often, but something in his tone loosened a knot inside her. "What do you want to look at?" she asked. Evan tapped his tool belt. "Your equipment, your suits, everything you've tried already. See, everyone focuses on what your touch destroys. They forgot to ask a more interesting question." She raised a brow. "Which is, what can withstand you?" he said. It was such a simple question. Obvious, even, yet no one in decades had approached her with that angle. People tried to contain her, avoid her, or warn others about her. But no one had ever tried to build something for her. Not seriously. Aster crossed her arms, unsure whether to feel hopeful or skeptical. "You think you can make something that survives contact?" Evan shrugged. "I won't know until I try. But humans have this annoying habit of figuring things out after everyone else gives up." A quiet pause hovered between them. For the first time in years, someone wasn't treating her like a ticking bomb. He saw a person, a challenge, a mystery worth solving. And deep inside, something long dormant flickered. The small, fragile hope that she might one day touch the world without fear. Evan looked around the dusty outpost and sighed. "All right, show me what you've got. And, if anything I'm about to inspect unravels, let's just pretend that was part plan." Aster almost laughed. Almost. She gestured for him to follow, unaware that this moment, this tiny spark of connection, would lead to an invention the galaxy never expected. An invention that wouldn't just change her life. It would save worlds. The workshop wasn't much to look at. A cramped maintenance bay built from recycled panels, half lit by flickering strips, and so dusty it looked like no one had touched the dashboards in years. Tools dangled from magnetic hooks. Spare circuits were scattered across benches, and a single old diagnostic terminal hummed with the tired persistence of something long past retirement. Evan stepped inside like an archaeologist entering a sacred ruin. "Beautiful," he whispered. Aster raised an eyebrow. "That's not the word most people use." "Sure it is," he said, brushing dust off a console. "This place has history. You can feel it." "You mean you can smell the dust?" "That too." His light tone cracked a stiffness in the air, loosening the invisible barriers around her. Still, Aster stayed near the doorway, gloves pulled tight, arms tucked carefully against her sides. She watched him with a mix of curiosity and disbelief as he began sorting through old containers, scanning materials, mumbling things to himself like, maybe, unless, and no, that would be stupid. Or would it? Most engineers talk like theory textbooks. Evan talked like a man arguing with the universe, and expecting it to argue back. Eventually he turned toward her. "All right, let's start simple. What's the longest anything has survived your touch? Astra exhaled. 5 seconds. He blinked. 5? That's it. With reinforced alloy. Triple layered. It lasted 5 seconds before unraveling. Okay, good, he said, nodding. That means you're not impossible. You're just very, very inconvenient. She stared at him. That's your takeaway? Hey, inconvenient problems are my specialty. Astra didn't know whether to feel offended or hopeful. She settled on cautious optimism, a delicate feeling, but one she hadn't felt in a long time. Evan took out a portable analyzer and gestured for her to stand by a reinforced testing table. She approached slowly, aware of how everything she touched had to be planned, calculated. Even the air around her held a quiet tension. Can I see? He asked, nodding at her gloves. See what? How the resonance behaves up close. I promise I won't touch. She hesitated. Then, with steady care, she lifted one glove to reveal the faint outline of her palm beneath the reinforced fabric. Even through layers, her energy shimmered faintly, a soft distortion in the air, like heat ripples rising from a desert. Evan squinted. Whoa, that's gorgeous. No one had ever used that word. Dangerous, yes. Frightening, often. Deadly, always. But never gorgeous. She looked away, unsure how to respond. He continued examining the readings, as if oblivious to her discomfort. Your resonance isn't random. It's patterned, like a quantum lattice that's slightly out of phase with our reality. That's what the other researchers said. Yeah, but they said it with fear. I'm saying it with excitement. He grabbed a thin sheet of scrap metal from the table. Okay, let's test something. Astra stepped back. You want me to touch that? Just a corner. And when you do, I'll watch the energy pattern. We'll learn something. She swallowed, feeling that familiar pressure in her chest, the fear of yet another reminder of what she was. But Evan watched her not like someone waiting for disaster, but like someone waiting for an answer. She reached out, the glove brushing the metal. The unraveling began instantly, microscopic threads peeling apart in spirals, dissolving into shimmering dust. Evan leaned close, eyes wide. Incredible. It's not destruction, it's disassembly. Controlled. Predictable. Almost elegant. Astra didn't find it elegant. She'd lived with it too long. But Evan wasn't seeing a curse. He was seeing a phenomenon, a puzzle, a frontier to cross. Okay, he said, energized. Now the real work starts. For the next hour, he tested materials, composites, alloys, ceramics, even a fragment of hull plating. Each one unraveled on contact, but each one taught him something. His notes grew more frantic, his smile more persistent. Astra watched him, feeling something unexpected. Guilt. He was trying so hard, too hard, and she had lived long enough to know how these things ended. Evan, she said quietly, you're wasting your time. He froze mid-scan. What makes you say that? Dozens of researchers have tried before. My condition doesn't obey physics. It breaks them. Or, he said, looking up, it's following a rule no one's identified yet. You really think you can solve this? No, he said. I think we can. The word hit her harder than she expected. We. She had never been part of a we. Not truly. Not since her ability manifested. People studied her, observed her, avoided her, but no one partnered with her. Until now. Evan dug into a container and pulled out a small sample case containing a dark, matte black material. This, he said with a grin, is human tech. Astra blinked. What is it? A prototype carbon chain nanomesh. Most species think it's useless because it doesn't behave under normal stress tests. Humans, on the other hand, love things that behave badly. He placed it on the table. Ready to try? She wasn't, but she nodded anyway. Slowly, carefully, she touched the mesh. For 1 second, nothing happened. 2 seconds. 3. The material didn't unravel. It didn't shimmer. It didn't even react. Astra's eyes widened. It's stable. Evan's grin spread from ear to ear. Stable is good. Stable is very, very good. He recorded the data, making excited noises under his breath. "But wait," Astor said. "If it's stable, why did everyone dismiss it?" "Because under normal conditions it collapses," he said. "Human scientists called it temperamental. Other species called it useless. But your energy, it doesn't collapse it. It activates it." Astor stared at the black mesh, realization dawning. Activate meaning? Meaning this might be the first material in existence that doesn't just survive you. It responds to you. It might even bond with your resonance. Evan looked at her like he'd just discovered a new star. Astor looked at the material like she was afraid to hope. He tapped the mesh. "This is our starting point. Maybe even the foundation for the armor." A chill ran through her. Armor. The word felt unreal. Armor for her? Something that allowed her to walk through a starship without fear? Something that let her exist alongside others without feeling like a danger? It was too much. "Evan, don't get ahead of yourself," she whispered. "Getting ahead of myself is my specialty. Besides, think about it. If we refine this mesh, reinforce it, layer it with adaptive quantum coatings." "You don't even have a lab," she said. He grinned. "I have this workshop and a stubborn attitude. That's enough." Astra shook her head, baffled by his confidence. "Why are you doing this? You don't know me. You don't know me anything." He paused. Then in a softer voice, "Because no one deserves to live afraid of their own hands." She froze. The word struck deeper than he probably intended. For so long, she had wished anyone would understand. And here was this human, this scruffy, overworked engineer, say it like it was the most obvious truth in the galaxy. Evan clapped his hands. "All right, let's get to work." And just like that, the world shifted. A stranger had walked into her life with a worn-out jacket, a stubborn smile, and a question no one else had dared to ask. What can withstand you? Now they had an answer. Not a full one yet, but the first spark, the beginning of something impossible. Astor didn't realize it then, but this simple moment, touching a strip of forgotten human tech, would become the cornerstone of a legend, one that would soon test them, challenge them, and pull them into a crisis far bigger than either of them imagined. But for now, in that dusty workshop, one truth settled quietly between them. They had hope, and hope was dangerous in the best possible way. The prototype shouldn't have worked. Even Evan admitted that much. It was stitched from fragments of the temperamental nanomesh, reinforced with alloys that had no business surviving Astra's touch, and powered by a handheld fusion node that looked suspiciously like it had been taken from a broken food heater. But it worked anyway. Not perfectly, not gracefully, but enough to survive 10 whole seconds against her bare palm. Long enough to prove the impossible wasn't just a dream. Long enough to make Astra's heart race with something dangerously close to hope. 10 seconds. For her, it felt like 10 miracles. Evan paced around the workshop, muttering calculations while tapping a stylus against his neck. "If we increase the resonance frequency by even 1%, we might stabilize a mesh. But if we overshoot, it collapses. Unless..." Astra interrupted softly. "Unless what?" He pointed the stylus at her. "Unless you help me calibrate it. The armor is reacting to your energy signature, not mine. You're the variable that matters." She stared at the suit on the table, a patchwork of black mesh, reflective plating, and exposed wiring. It didn't look like armor that would save worlds. It looked like something held together by stubbornness and luck. But she nodded anyway. "What do I do?" "Just be yourself," he said, as though that were the simplest thing in the galaxy. For most people, being themselves required no effort. For Astra, it meant confronting the one thing she feared most, her own hands. Still, she stepped forward, removed one glove, and extended her palm toward the mesh. The material vibrated, shifting like liquid metal trying to find its shape. Evan monitored the readings, adjusting controls with frantic precision. The room hummed. The mesh shimmered. For a moment, everything held perfectly. Then, crack, the material detonated in a harmless burst of fractal dust that sparkled through the workshop like cosmic confetti. Evan winced. "Okay, not that." Astra sighed. "I told you this was impossible." "No," he said, brushing dust off his jacket. You told me this was difficult. Impossible is a whole different thing. And so they kept trying. Days blurred into nights. Nights blurred into something stranger. Quiet moments where Astra forgot she was feared by billions. Where she forgot she was dangerous. Where Evan's casual jokes and relentless optimism chipped at walls she'd built for years. He talked while he worked, filling the silence with human stories. About growing up in a small engineering district, about repairing junk ships for fun, about the time he accidentally overloaded a stabilizer coil and blacked out an entire station. Astra found herself laughing more than she expected, especially when he described how humans had a talent for narrowly avoiding disasters. "You're fearless," she told him once. He smirked. "No, I'm just very good at pretending." On the 10th day, they achieved something extraordinary. The mesh didn't unravel. Not for 10 seconds. Not for 20. For the first time in her life, Astra touched something directly. Truly touched it, without destroying it. Her fingers traced the surface of the reinforced mesh, and instead of fleeing apart, it glowed softly, like the material was listening to her. She inhaled sharply. Evan watched her, quiet and proud. "You did that." She shook her head. "No, we did." The word felt natural now, comfortable, but the universe had a habit of interrupting peaceful moments. The emergency sirens blared across the outpost. Astra froze. "What's happening?" Evan checked the nearest terminal. His expression changed instantly, from curiosity to alarm. "Oh no, that can't be right." "What is it?" He pointed at the display. "Planetary collapse. A gravitational instability is swallowing the Talon system." The Council issued a full evacuation alert. Astra's throat tightened. Millions live there, and they're running out of time. Ships were already fleeing the system, but the gravitational surge was too strong. Debris fields were forming. Transport vessels were breaking apart. The Council predicted total collapse within hours. Astra felt a helpless dread she hadn't felt in years. She knew what she was capable of, or rather, what she couldn't do. "I can't help them," she whispered. "I'd tear their ships apart before I saved anyone." Evan stepped close, placing a gentle hand near her shoulder, but not touching. "Not anymore." She stared at him. "The armor isn't ready." "Then we finish it now." There was no time for doubt, no time for fear. They worked faster than they ever had before. Sealing plates, stabilizing the mesh, reinforcing joints, attaching the power node. Evan's hands moved with frantic purpose. Astra guided the resonance calibrations with delicate control. Their voices blended into a synchronized rhythm, two minds working as one. When the final piece clicked into place, the suit looked nothing like its messy beginnings. It was sleek, dark, almost alive, a second skin designed for the one person who should never have been able to wear armor at all. Evan stepped back. "Astra, this is yours." Her hands trembled slightly as she touched the suit. It didn't unravel. It pulsed warmly, as if welcoming her. She suited up piece by piece, feeling the mesh sync with her energy, harmonizing instead of fighting. For the first time, she wasn't shielding the world from herself. She was ready to step into it. The shuttle launch was fast, messy, and barely cleared the hangar without clipping the ceiling. Evan piloted with the focused panic of someone who only pretended to know what he was doing. The closer they came to the Talon system, the more the destruction became clear. Fractured moons, collapsing orbiters, evac ships spiraling out of control, rescue teams unable to get close without being torn apart by tidal forces. Astra stood at the ramp, heart pounding. "Tell me when." Evan swallowed. "Now." She leaped into the void. The gravitational currents hit her instantly, swirling forces that tore starships apart like paper. But the armor held. The mesh flexed and harmonized with her resonance, stabilizing her within the chaos. And Astra moved. She caught a collapsing shuttle by its tail fin, redirecting it toward a safe corridor. She shielded a drifting escape pod from a cascade of debris. She carved paths through gravitational distortions with her hands, unraveling only the unstable fields threatening to engulf survivors. Her curse had become a tool, a precision instrument, a weapon against destruction instead of a source of it. Throughout it all, Evan guided her from the shuttle, voice steady despite the terror. Pod cluster on your left. Shuttle spiraling at your 3 o'clock. Astra, you're doing it. You're saving them. She didn't feel fear now. She felt purpose. By the time the gravitational storm stabilized, thousands of lives had been saved. Not by fleets, not by Council technology, by her. When Astra returned to the shuttle, armor glowing faintly, Evan was waiting at the ramp, eyes wide with awe. You just saved the system, he whispered. She removed her helmet, breath shaking. We did. News spread across the galaxy faster than any ship could travel. The woman once feared for her touch had become the hero who stopped the planetary collapse. And humans, the species known for stubbornness and impossible ideas, had built the armor that made it possible. Astra was no longer the unraveler. She was a protector, a symbol, a legend, and standing beside her, tools still in his pockets and grease still on his jacket, was the one human who changed everything. The engineer who asked a question no one else dared to ask. What can withstand you? The answer had reshaped the galaxy.